evening to you all. Welcome to the JANAL Talks. The Kerala Museum is a vibrant beacon of the arts in Kochi. Set up in 1987, it's the brainchild of R. Madhavan Nair, who even then recognized the need for a place like this to provide experiential learning in history and fine arts. To mark its 35th anniversary, the museum launched a flagship program on Kerala history called the JANAL Digital Archives. Some of you may have experienced this online already. If you can head to our website. Please look at the JANAL tab and you will see all of our work there online. The program aims to create innovative, engaging exhibitions by drawing on Kerala's contemporary history, on historical archives, and micro-histories of people and communities of Kerala. The JANAL Talks is part of the programming around the JANAL Archives. The Geojit Foundation, we've been lucky to have them support the JANAL Archives, and the program builds on the museum's founder, R. Madhavan Nair's dream of making history accessible to all. Today, in the 30th talk, we present the topic, Recording a Woman's History in Cinema, Necessity and Challenges, by Bina Paul. Bina Paul is a film editor who works mainly in the Malayalam-language films. She is recipient of 2 National Film Awards and 3 Kerala State Film Awards. She has held several positions, including the Artistic Director of the International Film Festival of Kerala and the Vice Chairperson of the Kerala State Chalachitra Academy. We know her for a lot more as well, but now she'll take us through all of that. Before the lecture, I would just like to remind you of a few house rules. The lecture is going to be for 45 minutes and it'll be followed by a Q&A. And today, because ma'am has a train to catch back to Trivandrum, we are really going to restrict the questions to 5. No comments, please, only questions. Please frame your questions well in advance so that we are ready for, maximum of 5 questions today. We're strictly going to follow that. Please put your mobile phones on silent during the talk, and if you urgently do have to take a call, please step outside the hall and take it. Now I would like to welcome Bina Paul to our podium. Agni is there, you can signal.
Yeah. Do you want to keep my phone? It'll go buzz, buzz, buzz. Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, museum, for having me. I've driven past this place on numerous occasions and always been so curious about what it is. Somehow, one never has actually visited, and now I'm so excited I'm here, and I must say they're doing fantastic work. Very little work of this kind being done in Kerala, really. So it's really good to see, and thank you for having me. Just to make a little disclaimer, I'm a film editor, and my job is basically to efface myself. You'll never see or hear an editor. So I am not extremely articulate or academic. But what I do have is a lot of experience, many years of experience of being working in Malayalam cinema mostly, and a lifetime of experience of being a woman, a cis woman that I am. And I think all this has sort of combined in a sense, the direction I have seemed to have taken over the last few years, which is basically wondering why, for one, that there are very few women working in Malayalam cinema, There are hardly any women working in Malayalam cinema. Why there is a kind of male club that operates in the industry. So all this has, of course, taken various forms of questioning, various forms of activities. You all know about WCC, etc. But there's also another track that I have been following, which I thought was interesting for a museum audience to hear about. I studied in the Film and Television Institute of India in Pune. We studied there in the early 80s. And it was really an interesting time in the history of the nation. We had just sort of emerged from the post-emergency time. There was a lot of stuff going on. I was part of a young generation that was very idealistic and thought the world must change and things must happen, etc. And without knowing a thing about cinema, I joined the Film Institute of India, which was one of these domes that had been set up, like the Bhakra Dam and the IITs and this and that. This was, one of those places of learning that I think people like Nehru, etc., had thought of. And I studied there, and it gave me great privilege. I must say that I finally got married and came to Kerala, though I grew up in Delhi. And it really did give you a privilege of a very unusual kind, where you were different, but you were respected. Different because you were intellectual and, good cinema and all that. So not really part of the industry, but respected because you had studied there, etc. So I went through my career here. It's been up and down and good and bad, etc. But a few years ago, a very interesting thing happened. Two things happened. I'll just show you one set of slides. Just a quick, it's not. So this was the girls' hostel at the Film and Television Institute of India. And we were 6 girls, 4 girls actually, 2 were there and then they left. We were 4 girls in this beautiful, huge setup. And about 4 years ago, this building was demolished to give way to a spanking new hostel because the number of girls had grown a little. So these were our rooms. These were kind of the spaces we inhabited, as all of you must have in various times in your lives, in film institutes or wherever, in colleges, etc. But for some reason, this became a kind of catalyst for a little bit of thought. We all, because we are filmmakers and we're used to images, etc., all these sort of brought us together a little bit, these images of the physical structure actually going. This place that we called our own, which is where the title came from, was suddenly going. A second thing happened, which is very interesting. It was the 60th year of the Film Institute, and a fancy coffee table book was brought out, which is a government institution celebrating success, celebrating contributions, celebrating everything. And in that book, there were 2 women. Out of these generations of people who have passed out. The numbers were surely, I mean, we were a very small number, but to have been able to find only 2 women, and I have to tell you, I mean, with no disrespect, you can guess who the 2 women were, Jaya Badri and Shabana Azmi. You know. And this really made me very, very upset. And I thought, look at all of us. What have we, what is it as women, as filmmakers, what is it that we have to keep proving again and again and again to say that, look, we matter. We have contributed to the history of this cinema, of this nation, of this country, whether it is in Bombay or it is in Kerala or it is somewhere else. So this was the kind of catalyst to start asking various questions. Yeah, you can start. So basically, 3 of us got together, we got a small grant, and I thought, we named the project A Room of Our Own, based on Virginia Woolf's famous quotation, which says that a woman needs a room of her own and money to do anything. So basically, and we started sort of inquiring into what did this space mean? You see, the interesting thing about cinema is, one, women don't go to cinema easily. It's sort of this kind of almost historic idea that women going into the arts, women going into anything are bad women, etc. So there were very few, women who could come to the institute. Secondly, while it was a very fantastic institution, where did all these women go? What happened to, what are the stories that we don't know, right? Because, I mean, surely if you've studied there, you must know, you must be doing something, and occasionally you'll probably hear of a Bina Paul getting an award or somebody else getting an award, etc. So that was one sort of inquiry about what happened, what happens to these women. The third was this notion of what is success? How do you measure success? Now, through conversations, etc., especially that book, which was very rankling in my mind all the time, I get the feeling that there is a kind of patriarchal notion of what is success, which is, how many awards did you do? How many films did you edit? How many foreign festivals did you go to? These are the kind of almost patriarchal notions of success, right? But for a woman who has fought her family because they were not allowing her to pursue her dream, but that she is able to reach this great institute, for her to be able to study there, to come out and be one of the most busy editors in Bombay today, for me is success. She may not have won 1,000 awards, this, that, and the other, but that journey of discovery, of struggle really, becomes a notion of success. So these were the kind of thoughts. We were very worried about nostalgia. Is it a nostalgic project? Is it nostalgia that is driving a project like this to inquire about the institute and its... And I think the more and more we thought about it, it wasn't that. It was much more... You see, nostalgia is always considered a bad word. We called it a memory project. And because it was a memory project, you think, oh, nostalgia, and therefore nostalgia is not academically an interesting space. But I think more than nostalgia, again, it was the different tools that we decided to use to inquire into what this is, what this contribution to cinema is, for example. So again, I would call them feminist tools because they perhaps do not fit into this notion of numbers, data, statistics, sample size. It doesn't work like that. But what it does work very deeply with is memory, objects, feelings, very subjective. Agreed, very subjective. We are not making some grand statement about all this. What we're saying is there is this possibility. There is this possibility that, women have contributed, and therefore there is a way of looking at it and acknowledging it and talking about it. So what we are doing basically is we are doing what we're calling an archive, an online archive, which is a website where you enter the website, and much unlike many websites which are very, there are only single pathways, etc. We are building it, the architect, it's not done, I'm sorry, I can't show you, we're still working on it. The pathways are all one of surprise, so therefore you can say, you can choose a keyword which is like path to FTII. And maybe this time you'll hear one person speaking, but the next time you may hear somebody else speaking. So it's kind of it's built, the architecture is also one of saying that there is no grand formula, it is one of discovery, of finding, etc. Now, what are we trying to achieve through this? I'll show you some bits so that you understand how exciting it became. I think what we are trying to say is, one is that there's a different way of looking at history, certainly, of cinema. Secondly, that the contribution to the quality of storytelling and the way of storytelling changes each time you have diversity, basically. That you can't, there is no monolithic way of sort of viewing either the industry or the stories that come out of this industry. You have to see that there is grain, there is element, and acknowledge that all this is part of it. So what we did was we thought a lot, and we said, let's interview people. We got a small grant from the International Association for Women in Radio and Television to do some research. It was a tiny grant. And basically, what we did do was start interviewing. It was COVID times, luckily, so everybody was at home with not much work. So we started interviewing ex-graduates of the Film Institute, just asking them to remember. You see, first we had thought of this hostel as the kind of area of interest. Then we expanded it to the campus as we got into conversations, etc. And like many, many campuses across the country, maybe across the world, very misogynist space. We had hardly any women teachers. We were never shown, I cannot remember seeing, we were shown films every single day. Every day we were seeing 2 films, 3 films, etc. But never were we shown films made by women. There were no, this business of saying, who are your heroes? How do you aspire, right? So all the time the aspirations are that of saying you have to be like Amitabh Bachchan, or you have to be like Rajkumar Hirani, or whatever, or in Kerala it may be somebody else. What I'm saying is that this notion of how do you, in education, how do you how do you gender education? How do you subtly gender education? It's not about wars, it's not about, but it's about awareness, about, acknowledging the other, not as the other, but as another, So these were the kind of things we were trying to achieve, and we really think that this is an important aspect of understanding where we are today in cinema, for example. When I look, when I'm seeing WCC and I'm seeing all that happens, I'm just seeing that it all stems from this almost lack of acknowledgement, lack of sensitization, lack of understanding of very, very subtle things like consent, for example. Nobody talks about consent. I mean, it's always, it's a slippery slope. We all know that it's a slippery slope. But how do you navigate consent? How do people acknowledge consent? So these were all the kind of, I think these are all going to be the readings of this project. Plus, there is also discovery of sexuality, of women's sexuality. How is it that at 20 you cannot imagine that a girl is as curious as a boy? And are you allowed to be curious like that? Why are you not allowed to be curious? Why is it immediately a moral weight put on you for that? Whereas for a boy, it's quite natural to want to, have a good time here and there, etc. So these were all the questions that sort of came up. I'll just show you now little extracts of the interviews where it is related to admission, it is related to the work they do, etc. Oh no, sorry, you can go to three.
Coming to FTI, the thing is, I had to completely cut off from my parents because they would never have allowed me to go. They would never have allowed me to go outside, live alone in a hostel, do film. It was just impossible. So I just told them that I'm getting married to Girish, at which point they said, okay, don't see us again ever. So I was like, okay, fine. I was 22 years old and I said, okay, I'm leaving. I think about it now, it terrifies me. But at that time, it was like, I'm leaving. And I left. And, so I was at FTI. So that kind of isolation, I had never lived outside Bombay before. I had never had a room alone. And, it sounds terrifying, but actually I found it very exciting. I was like, everything was new. Everything was like, it was like some fantasy come to life.
She's the editor of Lapata Ladies.
Coming back to oneself did happen in the hostel. So the reflections on what one was thinking at that time, what one was feeling, the rendering of it in scripts, all that happened very much because of the hostel space. But I used to carry all the influences from outside into my room and process them there. So the processing part did happen. And also very peculiarly, though one identified with men and though one, I was fashioning myself apparently like another man on campus. But inside my room and when I was working on my films, I felt that myself as a feminine subject started to evolve and I could see it on the screen.
I didn't think, but later on I was thinking, my God, in FTA, the minimum number of boyfriends were 2 and I had none. What the hell was I doing there? So you go back.
Actually, when I think about it, in every room, there was incredible drama happening in terms of romance, breakup, new romances, parallel romances, all of us colluding with each other. That one boy has just gone, so the other boy has to be kept away.
What is this?
What were we doing? We were such, gosh.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
There was lot of action. I used to say in the morning when I wake up, I don't know which boy has now come out of which. Yesterday I saw him come out of this room in the morning. Today he's coming out of the sound.
What fun.
Constant misogyny.
Yeah.
Constant misogyny. And it was just a real pain in the ass. So in the class, in the screenplay writing class, one guy wrote a script. The script was set in a college where the leading character was a girl described as a bhas karne wali ladki. This bhas karne wali ladki made a fool of 5 boys, using them opportunistically, and mutual jealousy turns these friends into enemies.
My God.
At the end, they all invited that girl to a natural spot for a picnic, and they gang raped her as a revenge.
Oh,
So this girl jumps into the lake of that nature spot for shame, drowns, and these people swear each other to secrecy and they run away, thinking they've accomplished the perfect crime, that it'll look like suicide. Someone jumped into a lake. But Mr. Ramesh Paul, despite being sozzled morning, got the point. He suddenly jumped up and became very active, and he blasted that student for his hatred of women with minds of their own. And I put it in quotes. So I also jumped in to support Mr. Paul, and I said that bhas karne wali ladki was modeled on me. So all the other students had a hearty laugh, because it meant that I was owning up to activities they like to pretend was shameful.
Wow.
And they found it delightful that I had admitted to being the bhas karne wali ladki.
My God.
Slept with lots of boys and turned them against each other. So Mr. Paul said, impossible, and stormed out and dismissed the class. So
My God.
it was like this kind of thing went on all the time. This is one incident I'm remembering.
In the interview, when they saw my resume, they had seen that I had edited and I'd done writing and all of that. And they said, we want to offer you the editing course. And I said, I've come here to do cinematography. And the same thing of, women haven't really gone out and continued, because once you have a family and all of that jazz, and it's a physically challenging job, and you won't be able to do it, all that happened. And
A common theme in the interview being told that cinematography is not a women's job.
yeah, so they said editing, and I said, see, I've come here to do cinematography. Either you give it to me or you don't give it to me. I'll figure my way out. So it's like an open space where if you're ready to push your boundaries, there is no one who's going to stop you. And I think that sort of helped me grow and evolve. And even when I came out and I figured that gender might play a role in how one is sort of perceived and the opportunities one gets, but one knew that you put your foot in the door and people will start taking you seriously, which is something that, in hindsight, one figures that it comes from, having a foundation at the institute. But I think it opened those doors and prepared one to be ready for anything that life might have to offer.
So basically, this is just a small sample. We've interviewed about 50 women from across, and they've all spoken about these experiences of always feeling that you've taken, mostly they all say, you've taken the place of a man. You, at your interview, you are told, while you are studying, all the time you are told that this was supposed to be a boy's place, and you have come in. And this is across the years, even till today, you are told by your professors that, silly girl, you should have been doing home science or whatever, and you have come and taken this place. So you start with a kind of, you have this discomfort on your about your place. Secondly is this whole notion of how do you find your voice? After all, in a film institute, you are supposed to be able to tell your own stories, to find your voice as a filmmaker. which is what is the most important thing about studying film for 3 years. What happens is your voice is always the voice of actually this majority of boys that are around you. So that's what Putul says. She says, you're always modeling yourself on the men around you. You see the films, you see great films, you see the Godad, you love it, you this and that and all that. So all the time, instead of finding yourself, you keep losing yourself. And a lot of women talked about the fact that the hostel, that space in the hostel was the only place where you came back, you sort of wrote a little, you tried to find yourself, etc. So how it worked as a safe space, actually, in a very... Then, of course, the thing that I did talk about sexuality, this is, again, considered a very, FTI is considered a very immoral, artistic, this, that. But I think the lens has to be different. The lens has to be that you get over with it then. You know what I mean? You're not, after you come out of the Film Institute, mostly you've said, I've had enough of all these fun and games. So it afforded you that space to have a boyfriend, break up with a boyfriend, make a mistake, parents didn't need to know. So there was also, as a person, you were growing. I know this is a bit of a controversial thing to say, especially in Kerala, that, that women should be allowed this space, but it is about having space. It is about saying that, look, as people who all want to sort of fulfill ourselves, that space should be there. So therefore, that's why it is a room of our own where, and it's very interesting, I have to tell you one thing, that we had a hostel warden whose name was Gloria Koshi. Gloria passed away 2 years ago, very unfortunately. Gloria was from Kottayam. She was a very God-fearing, Catholic, Syrian Christian girl who came into this institute. She was our age when I was there, when I was about 23. She got a government job and she came and she landed in this institute. And I think she was supposed to be the warden of the hostel, which means, what does a warden do? No going out at this time, no this, no that, no boys, no this, eat your food on time, all that. But Gloria was this amazing woman. She was very Christian, she was going every week, but she seemed to understand that what these girls were all trying to do together. They were not bad girls. That was the main thing with Gloria. She never thought that there is good, bad, that this is a bad girl kind of situation. What she did was she gave us all a kind of anchor. She was like the mother over there. That's what they say, na? One room, this room, that room. Always you knew that you could go to Gloria and talk to her and tell her things, and she would be just the most amazing person. So, it's also that element of saying that you had the security to make mistakes. Basically, I think women are never allowed to make mistakes. That is what society, you always have to be this perfect example of everything good. Well, what this space allowed us to do was to make mistakes, whether it is with boys, whether it is the kind of films you made, whether it is with whatever you were grappling with at that time. Now, having said that, for a lot of people, it was a tough experience because as I said, it was very male-dominated. So for a lot of people, it did become a difficult space. But I think it has been transformative for everybody, which is what we are trying to actually talk about, and talk about in the context of larger education spaces, etc. So the archive contains photographs, letters, interviews. So there's materiality of, we've got somebody's preserved their first editing pencil, somebody has got the curtain from their room. So there's the whole kind of sense of the materiality of that space and how important. There are these wonderful interviews. I cannot tell you, they are such a resource of material. When I said tools of enquiry, this is such a, and we have of women from all across the age, time. We've got women from different communities, we've got different regions, we've got, so it's really an interesting mix of people. Plus, what we did was we commissioned 6 films. We call them poems, 12 film poems we call them, where we invited some people to reflect from today, where you are today, to reflect back on your time at the Institute. So I'll show you that clip, and we'll be almost done, and then we can, I'll speak a little more, and then, so if you can show number 4. These are just a few clips of the films that were made by women reflecting on their time in the Film Institute. Can we turn off these lights? These lights?
बहुत दिनों पहले की बात है। एक दिन मुरारी जी ने मुझसे कहा कि देखो आज एक फिल्म इंस्टीट्यूट में लड़की ने एडमिशन लिया है, उसका नाम पार्वती है, और ये बहुत खुशी की बात है कि उसने स्क्रिप्ट राइटिंग और डायरेक्शन कोर्स में लिया है। ये इंस्टीट्यूट की पहली लड़की है जो यहाँ पढ़ने के लिए आई है।
When I took up direction, which was considered a very male-dominated profession till then, it was but natural for all my friends, colleagues and teachers to think that I will also have to adapt a dress code which is more male-oriented. There was one chap who was from Rajasthan who asked me, "Madam, आप साड़ी पहन के डायरेक्शन करोगे?" So I said, हाँ साड़ी तो पहनी हूँ ना, क्या बात है? He said, नहीं, आप कैसे करोगे? Because till then, I think most men thought, you see, sari means घर के काम, रोटी बनाना वगैरह. They did not think how a person with a sari can be directing a film.
Mirana and I were the 2 girls in the batch of 20 that joined in 1980, a lifetime ago. Here we are on the rooftop of the boys' hostel, Navroz Contractors' workshop. That monsoon, all roads led to FTI Pune. Destiny? Mirana laughs. She joined FTI from the Film Center, University of Philippines at Manila, a leap of faith totally unplanned. For me, a visit to the institute as a 10-year-old had channeled my fascination with cinema. And once Delhi University was over, here I was, living my dream. In 3rd year came the big occasion. Mirana and Jay got married and the girls' hostel was celebrating. Especially the arrival of baby Kichiku, formerly named Siddharth, delighted the whole campus. The news made a splash in the local press too. Here we are, all of us, at his baptism, a cherished memory. Soon as the diploma films rolled out, Kichiku was very much the integrated student as well.
Living within the expectations of a large extended family and the restrictions of a traditional community, in a town too small to contain my rebellion, being dreamy was my escape. Escape into films, into books, for as long as I could remember. Always my first memories. How then could FTII fail to entrance me? It felt like a gateway to heaven, then and even now.
हसीना जुल्फों वाली जाने जहां ढूंढती हैं काफिर आंखें किसका निशान महफिल महफिल ऐ शमा फिरती हो कहाँ महफिल महफिल ऐ शमा फिरती हो कहाँ
It felt like home, then and even now.
মাত্র এখনই ফিরে এলাম ঘরে টার্কোভস্কির সোলারিস দেখে 7 মিনিটের পথ ইনস্টিটিউটের ঘের দেওয়া চৌহদ্দি থেকে ফিল্ম আর্কাইভ অডিটোরিয়ামের দূরত্ব সারা পথ আচ্ছন্ন আমি হেঁটে এলাম আর্কাইভের সদর দরজায় সিনিয়র একজন কেলো দাঁতে তাঁতাল হাসিতে কি ম্যাডাম বোঝা গেল কিছু উড়িয়া হিন্দি উত্তরে আমি আচ্ছন্ন হাসি কিছুটা পথ পেরিয়ে এলাম পাশ থেকে ডান হাত ধরল কেউ নেপালের মেয়ে কিরণ সে দোকানে কি সব কিনল পাশে চুপচাপ আমি কেনা শেষে স্লো টার্কোভস্কির সমালোচনা I did not feel like this জবাব দেই খাবার টেবিলে দিল্লিওয়ালি গোষ্ঠী চোস্ত ইংরেজিতে পোক্ত যারা তারা স্লো টার্কোভস্কির ছবি দেখতে গিয়ে ঘুমিয়ে পড়েছিল ভীষণ একা মনে হলো নিজেকে দুর্বল ভুলে ভরা ভাষা আমার চুপচাপ আমি তাই
Language text, and I knew that I have to find it. There are things that I need to express, and I would have to express. And in a way, everything came to me as a personal force.
I examine my being inch by inch, in its worn disguise. Shrouded truths concealed in shadows, silently waiting for time to come or pass. I try to catch the light that others shine. It slips through my fingers. This old structure, steeped in its dogmatic glory, feeds the self-satisfied minds around me. Their biases allowed to crystallize, unchallenged. I watch from the periphery. Complacent in its intolerance, dismissive in its invisibilizing, it feeds on vulnerabilities. I don't know which is preferable, intolerance or invisibility. What I do know is that both are violent.
Yeah, so basically, this is the quality of the women's voices that we heard. They were reflective, they are painful, some of them are painful, some are joyful. There are also joyful moments when you discovered a lot. So basically, I thought it's important to talk about this project in the context of how challenging it is when you want to write or you want to look at a different kind of history, basically. First, the same material is not available. For example, on the website, we also have a timeline of the history of women in Indian cinema, which is one of the elements in the website that we are constructing. It's just a timeline. In 1924, somebody did this, some woman did this in 1925. Impossible to find material. It's just not there. It's really difficult to excavate all this material. I mean, Reena Mohan, we are three of us who work on the project, Reena Mohan, Surabhi, and myself. Surabhi is a professor at the New York State University in Abu Dhabi. Reena is a well-known film editor, and myself, and three of us, Reena and myself were almost the same batch, and Surabhi Sharma was a little junior. So, I mean, we worked on various aspects of this, but I think the whole challenge has been this, that how does one, in a sense, look at history with a different lens? Basically, that is what we're saying, that the challenge is to look at history with a different lens. And I think the work that one is trying to do through WCC, etc., which is highly contested, I know about everything that's happening now, etc., is also that to see, the moment you acknowledge other contributions, there is a kind of confidence, a kind of space building that takes place. So, happy to answer any questions. I hope this made sense. I would really like to say this is not only about cinema or not only about the Film Institute, but also to do with the fact that how does a nation build itself, basically? How does a nation, in these grand institutes were built, well-intentioned. Are they fulfilling contemporary needs is the question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
The floor is open for questions, all of you. You've also seen, thank you for including and making your talk accessible even for those of us in museums and archives, and then looking at this from that point of view, from the fact that the lens is so important. The JANAL Archive also looks at history in a different way. As many of you have also participated in the talks and lectures, you would have seen that the floor post the talk is actually where the magic happens. So please put your questions together.
That photograph is Payal Kapadia in the hostel. She just won the award at Cannes. That one, she's lying in a hostel room with her hair tied up, and that one there is Fauzia, who's one of the top cinematographers in Kerala today, and Reena, who worked with me. So it's all just so nice to have these photographs to, show them and see Payal like this now when she goes and receives the award at Cannes and everybody's celebrating her. But there is also this whole process of where and how she came, it's, the journey, that's right.
Mrs. Bina Paul, you said that when a lady comes to the landscape of movies, she's taking the place of a man. And you said that a woman is not allowed to make any mistakes. How it is possible? When Jodie Foster directed her movies, she didn't take the place of a man. And that Claude Chao, when she won the American Academy Award on Nomadland, she didn't take any place of a male director. They were achieving. And why this? Why people like you are glorifying this men-centric situation? It is not men-centric now. It is women-centric too. And you are fighting for that. You are working for that.
No.
And we are appreciating it.
I think you misunderstood. I said that when they go for the interview, they are told this. Not that I'm saying it. They are all told that they are taking the place of a man. I'm not at all subscribing to that view at all, actually. But that is the kind of jacket you're put into at once. That is the problem. That is what I was commenting about, actually.
Other questions? Liz, yeah. Just a second, please use the mic.
Like you said, these institutions were started with the extremely good intention of fulfilling all the, future requirements of the country and so on. So what did you feel? Did it fulfill? Other than the societal restrictions placed on you, did you feel that it met?
Oh, yes. I have to say that there are things we don't talk about also because we have put a particular lens on it. But I was an extremely privileged South Delhi girl, and for whatever reason, just through some kind of quirk of fate or inquisitiveness, I landed there. And there were people from all over the country. You had boys from Jharkhand, you had from Orissa, you had from Tamil Nadu. It was a complete melting pot of what this country is, number one. Number two, it was so cheap to study there, so anybody could come. So that privilege of economic privilege did not become the... So there was a lot going for it. It's pretty much, there have been lobbies that have been trying to take it over. There is, there's the Bombay, there's all that. But I think at the core, it does remain. And that is why it is so important a space to protect. These are not like private institutions where you only, if you're very, very rich, you can go, etc. So that's why I think I feel very invested in this, because I feel these are the places that we need to protect, we need to encourage, these are not, these are critiques, but these are not, this is not to pull down anything, it is just to say that, yeah, these are things that you have to look at, So certainly I feel it's a very, very important institution. To be able to study in a film school, see the best films, make any number of films, interact with people from all over the country of different kinds, it was a great experience. And I think the IITs, the NIDs, all that have that quality because of that. Yeah. And I think that was the vision. Yeah. And that was the vision, that you build these institutions which is for everybody,
I think that came through in the pain as well as the, keeping the memory of your room, your that creative space alive.
Can I slightly deviate from the topic and ask a question?
Sure.
I am asking this because you are associating with the WCC. Nowadays in Malayalam film industry, a lot of women are coming out and making allegations against menfolk. Somebody says 25 years back this man had knocked on my door, 25 years back this man had asked me, well, can you adjust or something like that. That is sexual favor. I am putting it bluntly. Suppose a matured person asks a lady, can I have sex with you? Why should she explode? Why can't she respond by saying yes or no? If she says no, and if that man is still troubling her, then there is an issue. Otherwise, that matter should end there. What is your opinion?
Completely, I agree. This is what I said, the whole idea of consent and is so important. But do not forget that when there is a power equation between a man and a woman, the notion of consent changes a lot. I am the director of a film, right? Tomorrow I can kick you out of this film. If I knock at your door and I say, have sex with me, can you have sex with me? It's very different from having a level playing field. She cannot say no often. That is the problem. You see, this is the problem of not understanding how power works in work situations. That is why the work situation is very, very secret. That you can certainly have relationships, nobody is being a moral police and all that. But when you are in a work relationship and you have the power to exercise some power over that person, whether economic, creative, whatever, then it is unacceptable. Then it's not about a consent, because she cannot say no most of the time. So that is what is problematic. It's not simple that you knock at the door and you say, bye, sorry, I don't like you. And yeah, that's what, you'll be punished. You'll be punished, you'll be thrown out tomorrow, you'll be shamed on the set, you will be insulted on the set. A lot of things happen. So the no comes with too much of a price sometimes for women. That is the problem. And this kind of saying, oh, it happened 15 years ago, it happened 5 years ago. The trauma that you carry for life when you are sexually abused, I think nobody can understand that. That it's not so easy tomorrow morning to come and say, hey, I was raped last night. No, it is very, very traumatic. And that trauma, I think that is when we hear the women talk, this is what we hear, that this trauma stays in you, it festers, it's very, very difficult to deal with. So I would say, yeah, it's in fact, for us, we were astonished at what happened. We all knew that there was trouble in the industry. We were talking about it a lot. We wanted change. But when this outpouring took place, I mean, it was painful. It was painful to know and hear, basically, that people you have worked with, people you know, have gone through this in different ways. So it's not a simple question of saying, go away. If it was, it's so nice. It would have been so nice if that was the situation. Also, it's not only the tap on the door. It is sending SMS messages of nude women to you. What do? Do you say yes or no? Please don't send it to me. He won't send it. I mean, the nature of the abuse is very, very different from then what we think. And why it happens is the kind of impunity. We believe that you get away with it. There is nobody to stop you. There is nobody to say, look, what the hell are you doing? So that is why when we say we need ICs, we need systems in place, we need systematic change to come, this is what we mean. I don't know, I hope that answers your question. Blackmail, that's a good excuse. Okay, maybe 2 people are blackmailing. Good, let them blackmail. Yeah, it doesn't matter. For the 50 that go through it, 2 blackmails is not a big price to pay, I would say. Of course, in any field in any area, there is swindling, there is that. Sometimes they will blackmail, but that doesn't make minus everything else. That's the only thing. I think people should understand that. Of course, in any situation, there is some blackmail that takes place. We don't deny that. But I would say that for the 50 cases we hear, if there are 2 or 3 blackmail, it doesn't matter, frankly.
I wanted to ask you, since you took us through a lot of the, life in the institute and women's involvement in that. And tell me, what was the percentage of women who actually studied the technical part of movie making? And how many people really aspire to be, say, directors and not actors, not necessarily actors?
Very interestingly, after 4 years, they stopped the acting course. So it's all women. They didn't have an acting course. They have restarted it. For a Monal Varsha Mumbai, they have restarted. But in the major time of the institute, there was no acting course. So all these women have come aspiring to be directors, aspiring to be script writers, to be, as we saw, cinematographers. You see, they're not allowed to dream also, no? If your daughter says to you, I want to be a cinematographer, what will you say? Shut up and go and do engineering or whatever. You won't say, go, doesn't matter. You may become a good cinematographer.
No, I mean that, when the institute started, was it primarily to train actors?
No.
Or was it to train?
It wasn't. It was this vision that India, see, at that time, I think Nehru and all these people very sort of affected by the Soviet Union, the whole East Bloc, where there's very good cinema, very good educational institutions. I mean, Poland and all still have some of the best in Czechoslovakia. They have art institutions that are so good. I think that was the influence, and they thought that they can create sort of a core of, and they were very interested in regional cinema, that people from different parts of the country should go back, make their films. So that the thinking was very correct. The thinking was very solid, and training of actors was one part of it.
So were the acting courses done by private institutions, or there was
National School. No, National School of Drama, and they would come for a short while to the Film Institute to study how film acting is done. But the National School of Drama took care of the...
So there were a lot of women who were studying filmmaking and the technical parts of the...
It was a low percentage. For example, in my batch, we were 14. We were 2 women, one cinematographer and one myself.
But I guess, I mean, around the 70s, 80s,
It was
that
low.
was the case even for engineering.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then it has gone up in 90s, 2000, a lot more women, But there is a lot of women who study and they're doing very well. That's what I said. Now, Jabin has just done Lapata Ladies. Some of the top cinematographers are from the Film Institute. The women are from there. So they've done. I mean, attrition is an issue. Attrition is a big issue. Not only from the Film Institute, in the Malayalam film industry also we find, and one of the reasons is workplace problems, lack of maternity leave, lack of daycare, all those also add to the fact that women can't work so easily. Yeah.
Shall we take one last question? Would you like to take us through the last few slides?
No, these are just some of the things that, we were inspired by all these. You can just go if you want to go down, just see. It's an art archive. These are some of the, when I said materiality, first thing you have to do is you have to do a slide project. Some of them are kept like that. So, it's also oral history. It's a different kind of way of and questioning what makes it important. How does it become a part of history is the thing, So it's at multi levels. Diaries. So this is what we say. These are filmmaker stories. These are women's stories. These are stories of space that gave us mirrors to view ourselves differently from the way we were used to seeing ourselves, to become artists. This project is an attempt to create the context in which to read these stories that illuminate what is at stake when women make cinema, basically.
Any more questions, anyone? Sir, please use the mic. Please use the mic. One second.
Bina, last question. You said that we need to look at the history of women in movie with a different lens. What is the characteristics of that different lens in your opinion, please?
That if you have not won an award, it doesn't mean that you've done nothing.
It is the same.
As
for a man,
well, of course it's the same, of course. But what is the tool that is used to make that history? We are saying don't use awards. How many films have you made? 45 films? You may have done one film, but that film is significant. I keep always saying that when I edited Amma Aryan, I don't know if you all know the film anyway, I was pregnant from day one to day till the day, I finished the editing and I went to Delhi for my prasavam. Now that for me is a very important oral history. Now why is it important? Does it make it, but for a woman to be having morning sickness, that's all important. It's different ways of looking. I'm not saying in any history book it should be written, but I'm just saying that there are ways of looking at these things.
Perhaps those are the sensibilities you bring into your movie making.
That's right. That's when we say there is a women's voice.
In the films also you see those Amma moments are very poignant, actually. Very, very, they kind of more than everything else I felt, maybe as an Amma myself.
That's right. That's right. So I'm saying that one perspective has been missed out. That's all we're saying. That one perspective has not been there.
See, when Aparna made her movies, we did not compare her movies with Donald Sten's.
Exactly.
And Meghana made several movies, so we never compared.
Exactly what we're saying. Exactly what we're saying. That we are not saying that we are women filmmakers. We are filmmakers, but we have a place in this pantheon.
You do have a place.
You say that, but there are many women who do not say that. And I'm telling you, at the 60th year of the Film Institute, they bring out a book and there are only 2 women in that book. And they're actors who we already know. What does that mean? I know that there was an editor called Renu Saluja, who was she was an extraordinary editor. She died, but her name is nowhere in that book. How can you write a history of Indian cinema without Renu? That was our question. So this is the way we looked at it. Maybe you have a different opinion.
Maybe you need to encourage women historians who will focus on.
Yes, that's what we are trying to be, historians.
You can only bring in all those sides if all those people are part of the making process. Otherwise...
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you so much, ma'am. Before the formal conclusion, I would like to announce the next talk. It will be around about the history related to rivers by Pallikonam Rajiv. He'll be talking on Pamba Mudal Periyar Vare, so the history of the south or the middle Kerala, and it'll be next Saturday around the same time. Now I invite our director Aditi ma'am to deliver the vote of thanks.
This is just a small token of our appreciation. Small light reading for you.
Thank you.
I'd like to first thank you for coming, being so generous with your time and your sharing of ideas, linking back to our archive as well. For us, as you light the way we can follow. Thank you all for coming today. As usual, braving traffic and every Saturday upon Saturday, coming all the way to the museum is amazing. Without our audiences and without the fact that there are many of you also going and looking at our articles and our exhibitions on the JANAL archive, what we are doing would not make sense, as we are also trying to kind of look at history in a new way. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for the wonderful questions, for opening up. When you ask a question, then we're able to actually look at all of the viewpoints, multiple perspectives on that question, and that's what we are trying to create here, a fertile space that can bring all of these other questions together. I'd also like to acknowledge the Geojit Foundation for supporting this kind of exploratory history that we're doing. We know, sometimes we feel we have no idea what we're doing, and sometimes we know when we've really looked at history from the point of view of being an inclusive archive with a diverse voice. So thank you all so much. With that, we come to the end of this talk, and remember to please subscribe, follow us on the YouTube channel. Please share the subscription of the YouTube channel with as many people as possible so that we can circulate these talks as much as possible. The talks are being used by everyone across the globe who are in Kerala studies, so it's a good resource Please share it with as many students, especially. Yes. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Once the website is up, I will share the link for all of you. I can share it. Yeah, send it out. You can see. It's very exciting, actually. Thank you.